Good evening, vinyl community and YouTube. I am going to pull another album from my collection and do like a show and tell, as I've done in the past. This is going to be for 13th Floor Elevators, Easter Everywhere. This is a special album to me, and I've got a pretty good story going for it. So when I inherited my mom's collection 10 years ago, 11 years ago, she just had her stuff sitting in the garage, and I found it when we were helping her clean her garage, and she, so that night that happened, I started going through it and looking at everything, and she had, really good stuff, just like Jimi Hendrix, Beatles, Velvet Underground, just stuff that I'm into now, ironically, but, I don't know. My wheels started turning as I was looking through them, especially when I came across this album, because immediately I just thought, man, like 13th Floor Elevators, psychedelic rock. What kind of drugs were you doing? And it makes, I think why this one's so special to me is a couple of things. She lived in Austin, Texas. My whole family's from Austin, Texas. This band was from Austin, Texas. I think like Rocky Erickson, if he didn't go to same high school as my parents, he was, in a high school with many of their friends. So it's just, just that kind of tie is pretty interesting. But for me, when I got this album, from her, like, it was in really bad shape. I mean, the cover was okay. Somebody had written all over the back of it, and I think it was like a friend of hers or somebody, I don't know. It wasn't her handwriting, but they had written all over it, and it was, really just bad on it had a lot of, the seams were damaged on it. The vinyl was just in terrible shape. Almost not even playable. I mean, you could play it, but it was pretty crunchy, and it had a few skips in there. So there was a few albums that in her collection like that I got rid of just because to me it was, they were just almost, they just weren't playable. It wasn't enjoyable at all, and they were just, they were damaged really bad. There was just a few. There was just two or three that I really wanted, but just wasn't going to happen. So anyways, I listed some of them because at the time I was completely green on the vinyl, and, I hadn't played a record in years, and I just threw it on eBay and just put on there, album in bad shape. I can't remember exactly how I titled it, but I just remember thinking, like, when I heard it, and given, I'd been conditioned to listen to digital music for, a couple decades. So when I hear all these pops and crackles, I kind of knew that was coming, but to me, it was just like, okay, this is just horrible. I can't listen to this. It sounds like, it just sounds like somebody's popping bubble wrap while you're trying to listen to a record. So I put it on eBay, and I remember it started bidding up like crazy, even in the condition it was in. And I remember starting it out for like $1 or $5 or something like that, and it ended up going for like $50 something. And I was just like, wow, why would anybody pay $50 something for a record that's in bad shape? No idea. And I remember this one guy right before the auction ended asked me if if I turned over the record, the album, and asked me, on the track Postures, does it say Postures on the back sleeve, or does it say Posturos? And I remember telling him, oh, it's Posturos, and no thinking nothing of it. And I'm guessing that at the time I just no idea. So the bell starts going off after I sell the record, and I start looking into it and find out that this is like a misprint, and it's pretty sought after. And immediately I was just like, okay, did I just make a big mistake selling this album? But regardless, I honored my end of the bargain and I let it go, and that was the story. But I remember making that day, because I had already committed at that point to like, okay, I'm going to start collecting albums. But I remember that day I made a promise to myself that like, I'm going to get this one back. Like, I got to get this one back. Austin, Texas, the ties to my parents, it's got the misprint. And I started looking into it, and it's just like, holy moly, like these are really expensive. So nonetheless, comes about a few weeks ago, I get on eBay, and somebody has this record for sale, and they had it down pretty low, but the picture they took of the album was really far away, and you couldn't read whether it was Pasturos. And so I took just a super gamble on it, and because I literally downloaded the image from eBay and like blew it up as far as I could get it to see, and it looked like that was an O on it. But I didn't want to ask the guy, because I didn't want to give away the possibility of him finding out he may have something better than it was. So I didn't say anything, and I put a bid on it, and I won. And I want to say it was, I don't know, 25 something dollars, $30. And he said there was a scratch on it, but it played through. And so I said, you know what, $25, come on now. It's is way better in the shape than the one I got rid of, so I'm going to take the shot. And I got it, and sure enough, it's got the misprint on it. So score one for me. And then the scratch it's a pretty decent scratch, but it's ironically, it doesn't pop when it comes through. Like, you can hear it coming, and you can see the scratches on there pretty good. But when there's a scratch going across an album, you'll hear it pop, and then like perfect rotation, it pop, 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 and then if it gets bad enough, it'll get worse and worse, and then eventually it skips. In this case, it does that, but it's not very loud at all, and you can kind of see it right there. Let's see if I can get that. There it is. See, it's like somebody's needle just completely. But when it's going through, it doesn't really, you can barely hear it. I mean, you hear the little click, but it's really, really light. And then right where that little jagged part in the middle is, that's where it actually hangs up. Or you'll sometimes get a jump on it. So, I basically cleaned the hell out of it, and I got it to where it plays through, and it's, and it sounds really good. Side 2 is a little bit more surface noise, I guess, overall, but I mean, it's not bad. There's no deep scratches, but it's just, it's from this, what is this, 1967 when this came out? I mean, so this old album's, 50 years old? But overall, it's in fantastic shape. It's really good. And this is just one of those, to me, like, holy grail type albums. It's not the mono version, which I think is really, really, really hard to find. And it's not the psychedelic sounds, elevators, mono, like, rare. It's not that rare, but it's pretty rare. And that's definitely the mark of a first pressing, was the Pasturos. And I just wanted to share that with y'all, because I just thought it was really cool. It's just it's been literally 11 years since I've been able to find like a good copy of this. And not only that, to find it at a low price, and just luck out, more or less, just get lucky on it. So, so if you're ever shopping records and you come across an international artist, 13th floor elevators, Easter everywhere, and the sleeve on the back says Pasturos, you've found yourself a pretty rare copy of this record. And I mean, honestly, I'm seeing people selling like the just the sleeve alone for like $50 just for this, or they'll sell just the inner sleeve for 40, 50 bucks. I mean, it's crazy how much people are paying for this stuff. So yeah, again, I just wanted to share that with y'all. I thought this is a cool record. I'm super glad I got this back, just for the fact that I let it slip away. I probably should have just kept it and hung it on the wall, the original, but I didn't, and I learned my lesson, and I've got it back, and I'm excited to have it. So thanks for watching as always, and y'all have a good week.